Welcome, everyone. Alma, would you like to say a couple words?
Okay, thanks, Elida. So, welcome to everyone. Thanks for joining in on this. What word can I use? Epic workshop on media. Um, we felt the need to have this workshop because really, when you look at World Space Week for all the things that it is a media event to a large extent. So we felt that it would be best to try and equip you with the skills needed to ensure that World Space Week this year is absolutely phenomenal. You've all been doing a phenomenal job to date, and this is only just a slight boost. So the first person that came to mind, of course, had to be Meredith, because she is and has been a World Space Week champion for the longest time. She has the expertise, and you'll soon see that she has the energy as well. So I will allow Elida to do a little introduction just to give you some more background as to her personality. So enjoy, and like me, I have my pen and notebook out to take as many notes as possible. Enjoy.
So, I will shortly read Meredith's bio before I give the microphone to her. Meredith Garofalo is an award-winning certified broadcast meteorologist and science and space correspondent with over 15 years of experience. She has worked across the US, including New York City, Cleveland, South Dakota, Florida, and California, and nationally with Weather Nation. Meredith currently writes for Space.com and mentors journalists through the Open Notebook. She has been recognized with numerous awards, including the inaugural Valparaiso University Alumni Association First Decade Achievement Award, a regional Edward Murrow Award, and the Long Island Business News and New York City TV Week 40 Under 40 Award. Her career highlights include live reporting during severe weather events, producing stories on rocket launches, NOAA satellite series, and NASA's significant accomplishments. She has interviewed top scientists and leaders in the space and science community, including an exclusive interview with the director of the National Weather Service. Meredith has moderated panels at the Space Symposium and Satellite Conference and judged for the Space Foundation's Space Technology Hall of Fame. Beyond her professional achievements, Meredith is dedicated to inspiring future generations through school talks, podcasts, podcasts and motivational events, particularly encouraging women in STEM. She's also an accomplished singer and actor, known for performing the national anthem at major sports events and guest performances. So that being said, Meredith, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to meet you this morning. This is me without a cup of coffee, so you can only imagine what it's like when I get going for the day. But I know there are people joining from all over the world. I am based in the United States, currently in Cleveland, Ohio, and I'm really excited. Thank you so much, Alma, for this opportunity to talk to all of you, because broadcast media has been my life. And I have seen it both from the inside as well as from the outside. And so I know how to pitch stories, how to pitch ideas for getting them noticed by my news director, very similar to when you're pitching a story and you want to get the attention from the local and the national and even international media. And World Space Week is one excellent example of how we can get out to not just our individual communities, but to the entire world, our passion for space, to let people that may not know much about space figure out that they're included too, and it's for everyone. And so this World Space Week, like Alma said, we have been doing a great job over the years, and it actually caught my attention a few years ago. I wanted to get involved. I started doing some of the posts, but now over the years, the impact that it's making with different very important topics that are going to be brought up that combine science and exploration and space. And this year will be no different, but this year will be even better because I'm very excited to share with you some of my experience and some of the tools that I would suggest when going out there and pitching your stories or pitching your events and getting people excited and involved. There's just little things you can do that can make a big difference. And so at the end, I'm going to leave a good amount of time to find out what you need to know, maybe where your problems have been, if you've been struggling in certain areas, if there was a situation last year, you're like, whoa, I did all this work and I wanted to get media attention and nothing happened. I'm hopeful that I can be here for you today to answer those questions. And if you have any questions in the future, as I'll share in my slide presentation, don't hesitate to reach out because together we are making a difference and together we are getting excited that space is for everyone. So, all right, let's get this thing going. Okay, who's excited? I know you can't like cheer loud, but like throw your hands up if you're on screen, if you're excited about this, because all right, Alma's ready to go. We are ready to go because the other thing is having a positive attitude, having good energy, getting people as excited as you are about something. So I'm going to start off and I'm going to share my screen. And I put together a little PowerPoint so I can go through just some of the basic topics and questions that we might have. So let's start off and go through this slideshow. Start it from the beginning. Hopefully this works. Okay, if everybody can see me, give you a thumbs up. You can see my presentation. All right, good. I got some thumbs up. Awesome. So I am here today to help. I'm here today to be that person who has seen both the media from the inside and from the outside. So let's start off with the topics we're going to go over today. First off, effective press communication. We all know that the press can be good or can be bad depending on what happens. That's the fact. But the press can be your friend. And the people that are working in the media business, the storytellers, the journalists, we want to be there to help tell your story and get it out to make a difference in the communities we serve. But in order to do that as well, it can't just be the press. It also has to be visibility all over, whether it's your local communities, whether it's regional, and even national and globally. You have to stick with something that works and something that's going to get people as excited and passionate as you are from within. Social media, that's another thing that it can be your best friend or it can be your worst enemy. But we're focusing on positive today, and we're going to focus on ways that you can really go out there on social media. You can launch a campaign, or you can go out on social media and get people excited and more followers to get excited about what you're doing. So we'll start off with effective press communication. The question is, how can we engage effectively with media professionals so we can get your message across clearly, but also attract more media coverage when it comes to different events and different initiatives? So we'll start off with the first topic. Tell an engaging and compelling story that leaves your audience hungry for more. I'm sure there's been a situation for all of us where you've heard a story and you're so compelled. You're like, wow, that was a great story. So what's next? What more can I expect? There's elements and components to telling a good story that gets that same reaction. And every time that you're telling a story, and I like to use telling a story because think about it. We tell stories every day. We tell stories when we wake up in the morning around the breakfast table. We tell stories at work with coworkers. We tell stories after work with our friends and family. Storytelling is what's for generations in all of history has continued to make people remember things, but also it holds sacred the things that we do every day and our legacy. So having a story with the event that you're holding is critical. You have to think about, why is this going to be important? to other people. Because yes, in the space industry, we are really excited about what we do. But to your neighbor who may work as a teacher, or to your friends that may work in a different industry, they may be wondering, well, why is this important and why should I get involved? And so the first thing is making sure you've got a story around your event that's going to bring excitement. So this is going to be thinking of that human value, what's in it for me? And people that you're talking to, why is it important to them? Is it because it's an event for children and getting children excited? So you want to tell them, instead of teaching, let's take this outside the classroom and get really excited about space or STEM or STEAM. So make sure when you're starting to put your event together, you're thinking of the whole story in general and why it's going to leave people wanting more and wanting to click on your story or share your post. And think about also the audience that you're going to have. Now, wording is very important, because the way you word and you tell your story, starting from the beginning with the headline, is how you're going to capture people's attention. For example, this headline: World Space Week event for kids. Okay, it's like, okay, World Space Week, that's cool. Kids, okay, I've got kids. This could be something exciting, but where are we going here? How much do your kids know about climate? Join us for an exciting World Space Week event. Boom. Immediately, you've got something that, oh, my kids don't know a lot about climate, or we want our kids to start helping the environment more. When you start with something that's got a little bit of pizzazz to it, a little bit of interesting topic, you really can captivate them just like that off the top. Or I guess maybe if you want to write down one event name right now that you would want to have your event known for. If you were publishing an article in the paper, or if you were sending out a press release, write down what your World Space Week article headline would be. I'm going to give everybody just a second to do that. I know you have to work a little bit today, but this is fun work because this actually could help you start your whole campaign. Another one could be, how about a day at the park? Let's learn about rockets for World Space Week. See, there are little things like that that give a little bit of information, but too much. So that way, whoever's reading the headline wants to hear a little bit more. Now,
Meredith, sorry to interrupt. It shouldn't be a smaller title with the words of inclusion of the subject and direct, because I don't know.
so you're asking, oh, go ahead.
For example, how much does your kids know about space? Join us to learn about the marvels of the universe, for example. Okay, but if you want to be direct, isn't it better to do it with question marks so that you attract? The way you said it is like you're putting a question mark and then you're revealing something. So you get the attention, then you are giving them the push to participate. Is there a way that you can do it with one statement? I mean, like a topic sentence.
Yes, and I'm so glad that you picked up on that, because just think about it. If I ask you a question like, what's your favorite color? You're going to want to respond. Something as simple as that. So sometimes if you put a question in the headline, people want to answer it. And then by putting a little bit more information like World Space Week event, going to be about rockets, or it's going to be about climate change, something like that, you're kind of making it interesting enough that they want to read the next line, which is going to be the introduction to your paper or to your release that's going out to all the different types of journalists. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out. Well, let me ask you this. Anybody else want to share their headline? And don't be shy. Okay, go ahead, Timothy.
Okay, I'll just give it a try.
Sure.
Yeah, I think you can say join World Space Week Climate Action Initiative, right?
Join World Space Week's Climate Initiative. I heard that correct, right?
Yeah, sure.
That's great. I really like it because it's inviting. Join. Ooh, I want to be part of something. But how could we, okay, so we're talking about,
Or maybe I can give another one.
sure, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, maybe we can say reach for the stars, save our planet, join the Space Week Climate Action Initiative. So maybe I can put another something catchy. Say reach for the stars, save our planet, join Space Week Climate Action Initiative. So I can put the last one, or I can put something that say reach for the stars, save our planet. Then I can put that.
I love your second one because that makes me excited to want to reach for the stars. And there's a lot of information there and it's upbeat and I can almost feel your positive energy when you were reading the second one. So I like that. When you have
cool.
something
Thank
that's
you.
an action as well, people like that because they want to take action. So that's another great thing. Thank you so much, Timothy. I appreciate you sharing.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, we'll go on. And if you want to participate moving forward, I'll let you guys know if I have any other fun things for you. But let's talk about setting yourself apart from the competition. This is really important. So what makes your message worth paying attention to? A lot of times you might have other events that are going on, and we all know this. Everybody wants to have the best event, but not everybody can go to an event on the same day. So when you are pitching an event, when you are putting your event out there, you want to set yourself apart. So that's going to be having a really great headline. That's going to be getting people involved or providing something that not everybody might have access to. For example, if you're pairing with a local museum and they're going to be putting on this event with you, you could mention something like, hey, have you had a chance to check out this new exhibit? If you haven't, you're going to have a great opportunity coming up in October because we're going to be doing a World Space Week event with them to talk about climate and space. So when you're thinking of planning these events, think of places or opportunities that they may not have in a regular week. Or maybe it's going to the park, but it's going to be teaching kids about rockets or science experiments. Whenever you're putting an event together, you want to think, how will this compete with other things in town? How can I get the most people to come out to my event? And why should they pay attention? So you can see with each of these bullet points, this is leading in to having really good communication and also catching the eyes of the press. So the next one is don't be afraid to network outside of your circle. Maybe this is the first time you're putting together a World Space Week event, or maybe you're trying something new. And you know that the topic this year is pertaining to climate. So go on LinkedIn, reach out to people in your communities and in your neighborhoods that are passionate about climate, or maybe that you haven't worked with in the past. But also that might be somebody that could help bring some good extra press. Maybe it's a scientist that just released a paper within the last year, or they gave an amazing presentation at a conference and they would be great to have as part of your event because they add a little bit extra from their expertise, as well as their name being somebody that would be recognized publicly. Sometimes it's as easy as going on LinkedIn and just saying, hey, and Alma can actually attest this because I did this with her. We didn't even know each other. We had seen each other's names. And for an article I was working on for space.com, I added her on LinkedIn and I sent her a message and I said, hi, introduced myself. This is what I'm doing. Let's connect. And here I am today. So you never know where a new connection might lead you. And I get it. It's uncomfortable. And there's always the fear of rejection. But just know that you never know until you try. And that new connection could lead you to 5 other new connections, or could lead you to somebody that's going to donate their place for an event in the future. And so sometimes it's just as simple as sending a message and saying, I may or may not hear back from them, but at least I took the initiative to reach out, to let them know what I'm doing, and to let them know that I'm excited and passionate about this, and I want to bring them in. Because the thing with the press, and I've done this because a lot of my work has been in meteorology, where I was in front of the green screen and I was doing the weather, but I'm also a journalist as well. So I've had to come up with story ideas every morning to pitch to my bosses and tell them, here's what I want to do today. And it's very similar to what you're doing when you're putting out to the press these events that you're going to be having for World Space Week. You have to come up with something that is unique, that is going to get your message across, that's compelling, that's going to tell a story, and maybe in a way that hasn't been done before. And it's creative and it's exciting and it's new, that your boss or the press that'll be reading these releases or these emails that you're going to send them are like, wow, I haven't heard of that before. That's really cool. You know what? I want more information and I really want to cover this event. Because what a lot of people don't realize is, for us as journalists, we do not get every story approved to go out and report on. Now, newspapers, radio, it's a little bit different because you're putting something out there. They might just read a one-liner, or if it's in the paper, they may publish in the events section what's going on. But if you want to get that coverage through your local news through the media, you need to pitch a story, and you need to do it so well that you know that person's boss is going to say, hey, I really like that and I want to learn more. So just remember, like I said, two things. One, you have one chance to pitch to a reporter or to the media your story for it to be told. And two, you want it to be so good that that boss is going to put it to the top of their coverage for that day or that event. Because it's a little bit of a competition to the other news stories in the day. And we all know this. There are horrible things that make the news every single day. There's breaking news. There's crazy things in the world that are happening. But we want to be better than that. We want something positive that's going to be out there and so eye-catching that your media sources are going to say, you know what, we have to cover this. This is really awesome. And this is also making a difference. Because with every story you tell, you want people to be impacted in a positive way. And you want them to go out and that you want them to change the world. So make your message relatable. Whenever you have a message, again, kind of like I was talking about earlier, you want it to be relatable to your neighbors, to your doctors, to your friends, to teachers, to everybody in the community. Because for us in space, something might sound cool because that's what we do every day. But if it's something that could be a career advancement, you know, what is your child looking to do in the future? Do they want to have a career in space? If not, here's an opportunity that's outside of the classroom that they can come and learn a little bit more about climate change and policy in the space world. And they may not get this kind of talk in school, but they can come to a fun event where they can learn about rockets and science and technology and engineering in a whole different way. See, when we put it to levels that are different than ours, you can capture the attention of anybody. And also for the parents, maybe it's somebody in this world that wants to go into a career change. I mean, we've all gone through that. And maybe they're thinking, well, I've been doing this for a while. I don't know if I want to do this anymore. You want your message and your event to reach those people that maybe they're thinking, climate change, sustainability, space. Wow, I didn't think I could go into that, but I have a biology degree, so I'm already a scientist. Maybe I could learn more about space and how they are doing research in space and studying different ways in space that they could grow things. So you never know who's going to be listening, but you always want your message to be relatable to anybody that reads it and in different ways. And a lot of times you can put that lower in the press release. You can say, we're having this great event today. You know, there's going to be an opportunity to talk with professionals in the fields on how you might get involved. And there's also going to be ways for families to come out and the kids can learn more and get excited about space. Now, this next one is for if you write press releases. You want to use quotes that make sense and don't repeat. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten a press release and I'll read the first paragraph and then the next quote from the director is the same thing in the paragraph. I'll be honest, when that happens, sometimes I just skip parts of it because you already said all this and your director is saying the same thing. So if you're getting a quote from somebody from the organization or from the event, or maybe you have a celebrity that's going to be participating in your event or a public figure, don't ask them to talk about what you've already are planning to write about. Like example, if you have the event stuff, think of, okay, what's a really exciting and intriguing quote that I can get out of this person? So if we're talking about an event that we're having, and it's going to be a kids event, and the first paragraph in our press release, we're talking all about the event, the date, the time. You don't want your quote for your press release to be, the event that's happening this weekend is going to be a really fun and educational event, because it's, you can already get that from the first paragraph. You could ask the question of, do you think you could give me a quote that talks about why space played an important role to get you where you are today, and why events like this can help build our future generations? Because that's something that's also, like I mentioned, relatable to everybody. And it's that personal story of why somebody is getting involved. Another quote you could ask is, if you're having, say, an event or a workshop for adults or for people that want to change careers in the workforce, maybe you could find somebody that's involved that could talk about, before I was an engineer for the International Space Station, I was just doing mechanical engineering in my community. Now I'm contributing to an even greater cause, and there's so much out there that I never would have realized until I took a chance to look into another industry like the space industry. So always make sure you're using quotes that are capturing attention. And this is really important too when it comes to the press. You always need to be available for follow-ups, because the stronger the relationship you build with the members of the media, the more success you're going to have, not just now, but for future events. So if you've been talking to a reporter and you're sharing your press release, they're excited, they're going to cover it, maybe a week before the event, you follow up. Hey, Meredith, I'm really excited that you're covering the event next week. Is there anything you need from me? Do you need any graphics? Do you need any more quotes? Do you need me to set up interviews? Because a lot of times, reporters and journalists that will cover your stories when they're happening, when the events are going on, they are doing a couple of other events of the day. I've been at events where sometimes I've covered 3 of them within one shift, and I have to write something about each one. And I can tell you, when I go to an event and the organizer has somebody for me to interview already, that they're going to be a great interview, whether it's a government official or whether it's a parent that's coming and they're excited because they want their kids to get more involved in space. The earlier you can set those up and let the reporter know, hey, I'm going to make this so easy for you because I'll have all the information you'll need the day of event. And also, I'm going to have people for you to talk to so you can easily get everything you need and move on if you have to. The more you can provide, the better relationship, the happier the journalist is going to be or the reporter is going to be, the more eager they're going to be to tell your story, but also the more likely they will be in the future to want to come back to you for future story ideas, because they know you can deliver, you can come through, and you can make their life a lot easier when they're out covering your event. So the next part of this is maximizing visibility. So we're going to go through some tips and techniques so you can ensure your event and the initiatives gain the attention and coverage they deserve. Because I know every event deserves the recognition, and I wish the media could cover every single thing that's going on. A lot of times with print, newspapers, magazines, that's something that could be put together a little bit quicker, but the video is compelling. I mean, think about it. When you're on social media, when you're on YouTube, you're watching videos from events, and that's what you want to learn more from. And since there's so many social media sites out there now, it's really important to make sure you're really putting out there something that will be shared and that will continue to be visible. So first off, think about your target audience. Is this an event that you're hosting specifically for kids? Is this an event that you're hosting for adults, for the working class? Or is it a little bit of both? And where can they go to find the information on these events and happenings? If it's kids, it's obviously going to be through the schools or through social media. If it's an adult, it could be job boards, places like LinkedIn, the newspaper, the local news. So you first want to think about what audience are we targeting? Because if it's just kids, then you'll want to focus more on talking to some of the local schools or seeing if there's a newsletter you can put your event in that goes out to all the elementary or the primary or secondary schools. Or if this is something for college students, maybe putting a release out to all the different colleges in the area and making sure that it gets out to their students of what's going on. That's the first most important thing. And this goes back to the way you're writing it, the headline. You want to get really creative. Is it catching my attention? Am I intrigued? Do I want to learn more? And I like to put a little sassy, because you know what? When something's a little sassy, you pay attention and you're like, whoa, what's this? This sounds like a really cool event. I would have never thought about going to that. And I'll tell you an example. It's not space, but I was driving the other day to go to the grocery store, and I drove by a church, and they had this big sign out there that said, "Who likes pierogies? The festival's at the end of the month," and it gave the dates. And I'm like, I like pierogies. Pierogies are my favorite. Yay. Automatically caught my attention, and it went in my planner. So sometimes you have to think of those ways that are going to catch people's attention like that, where they're going to stop and say, okay, I need to be part of this. And there's always ways that you can do it. And sometimes if you want to figure out if it's going to be creative, talk to your staff, read your ideas to them and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Which one of these, just like Timothy did for me, which one of these catches my attention more? And if most of the people in the room are picking number 2 or number 3, then that's the one that you should go with. Now, social media can definitely be your friend. And what you put out on social media, which we're going to go over in the next part, is going to get shared, is going to be publicized. So think about it, whether it is putting out a little picture that says, who wants pierogies, or who's hungry for a taste of space, you know, something fun and creative that is going to capture people's attention. So when they look at the picture, they click on the link so they can find out your link information. Another thing, and this is really important, is to find community leaders and influencers that will support your event and that will also cross promote. I do this a lot with events that I'm passionate about, especially nonprofits. If there is a charity, for example, I do a lot of work with Big Brothers and Big Sisters, which is a mentoring program here in the United States. And when they're sharing events and somebody will come to me and say, hey, can you do this? Can you share our event for us on your page? If I'm passionate about it, I absolutely will. And I'm sure there's a lot of people in your communities that are involved in space, that are involved with climate, and they're really excited and passionate. And maybe it's making that introduction or going to them and saying, hey, you're the mayor, or you're the one of our government leaders, but you're also really passionate about this topic. Can you, almost like an endorsement, but can you share this on your social media page? Or maybe you could give us a quote for our press release. Because a lot of times there are people in your communities, and there are these influencers that are on TikTok, even on YouTube, that they love this kind of stuff. And they'll share your event if you'll also give them a share or a like back. And see, what happens is it's a cross promotion. You don't have to spend a bunch of money on advertising, and you're getting somebody that's excited and passionate about what you're sharing that's going to do the same for you. And also you're going to do something for them and give them the visibility. It's always a win-win. This goes back to what we were just talking about, outsource numerous types of local media. In this day and age, you have to go to all the different platforms, online, magazines or community newsletters, the newspaper, different TV channels, whether it's national or local, radio, public radio, and podcasts. These are a lot of different ways to get out there what you're doing ahead of time so you can increase ticket sales or attendance. And the more planning you do ahead of your event, the month or 2 months before that you're out there and you're getting on the local show, on the morning show, or you're putting something on a podcast that you know a lot of people listening to, you're going to get a lot more visibility. And this is my favorite one. Swag is sweet. I like to say freebies are fun and fashionable, because if you go to any space conference and there's that little rocket that you can sit there on your desk and squeeze to give you a stress relief, that's sitting on the desk and that's got your event on. Now, I know not everybody has big budgets, but at the same time, if you can think of something, even stickers, I can't tell you how many teenagers, college students, their laptops are covered in stickers. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. They have stickers everywhere, water bottles. So for your event, make something that you can give away or even give out in promotion that people will use again. Because I've used a lot of that stuff. I've had people look at my stickers and say, "Oh wow, what was the Space Symposium I was just at?" And there's this really cool sticker I got from there. And so people notice those things. So if you can do it, like I said, freebies are fun and they're also very fashionable, especially with kids. Now, the last part of this is social media mastery. You have to have a strategy that's going to boost your social media presence, and it's going to create engaging content that's also going to resonate with your audience. And I love this picture because I was at an event in Washington, D.C. last year, and it's called Spaceball. And all the professionals in the D.C. area, we go to a baseball game at Washington Nationals Park. We wear these shirts that say Spaceball. It's a bunch of people wearing space outfits, obviously these children. And this picture that I put on here, I got so many shares and likes and follows and people asking, what event were you at? Oh my gosh, those girls are so adorable. You're Rocket Girl and you're literally with the Rocket Girls. And so it's a creative photo like this that can tell a whole story, but also that can get you the attention you need on social media, that people want to learn more and they want to ask questions. So that's the first part. A picture is worth 1,000 words, whether it's from the event before, or maybe it's getting your staff together and doing something a little bit silly, or something that'll catch attention depending on the tone of your event. If it's something more serious, obviously you're not going to be jumping up and down and singing songs. But if it's something that is for kids, I mean, there's different ways to be creative. Maybe a kid costume contest of have your little ones dress in their best space attire and come to our event to get excited about World Space Week. Think of all the cute pictures that are going to be out there. Obviously, you have to ask the parents if it's okay. But I found, especially being in the media, when you talk to them, when they're already going to be in an event like this, they're pretty much okay with their kids dressing up and coming to an event. And that's going to get you a lot of attention on social media, and positive attention, because you're showing your event and you're getting people excited. Now, when you're putting out a social post, you want to engage the users. And like we talked about with headlines, questions are key. You want people to interact and share your social media post. So if you're putting a poll or something out there, how much do you know about climate change and how it compares to where we were 10 years ago? And then you could have a little poll like a lot, a little, or not sure, want more. And people love that kind of clickbait. I mean, I'll see a poll sometimes, it'll be like as simple as which dress or which tie should I wear today with some of my on-air friends. I know it sounds silly, but I immediately want to click. I want to participate. So when you ask a question, when you're saying, hey, we're trying to think of a mascot for our World Space Week event. Should it be a penguin? Should it be a tiger? I mean, something simple as that, but then it gets people to participate. And it also gets them to want to learn more. Or on Facebook, for example, you could say, we're talking this year at World Space Week about climate change. What's one thing you wish would be discussed in detail? Question mark. And you're going to see your comment section light up. And then you can also have a link to say, to be part of the event, click here. And then people will want to be a part of that too. Use your contacts, and this goes back to what I was talking about with public figures, local celebrities, influencers. You want to use as many people as possible for your shares, your follows, and your likes, and tagging is key. If the mayor, if the governor is like, hey, you know what, I want to be involved in your World Space Week event, say, hey, we're going to put a post out. If we tag you, will you reshare it? Sure. Then you're getting the visibility on their page in addition to your page. Or you're going to a local TikTok or YouTube influencer and saying, hey, you already do space videos. Can you share this? Can we tag you and share this on your Twitter or on your TikTok? There you go. Next thing you know, your information is going out to hundreds of thousands to sometimes even millions of followers that you might not have had in the past. And again, with the creativity, you want to post something that's exciting, but also not something that you regret. And I say that because, as we know, with social media, once something goes online, it lives there forever. And if you post a video and there's dancing and there's a blooper and something ridiculous happens and that gets like 1 million shares, your event's not going to look that good if it's not for the right reasons. So though, just remember that when you do post responsibly. And know to be successful in social media, you want something that people can share and something that can go viral that's going to be in the best interest for your organization. Also be mindful when you schedule posts. you don't want to put something in the middle of the night because nobody's going to be awake. And you also don't want to post something on Sunday at maybe 8 o'clock because people are getting ready to go back to work or school or summer camps. So sometimes I like to say is think about the time when you're on social media. For example, I wake up in the morning and sometimes I'll just go on Twitter to see what's, or X as they call it now, to see what's going on for the day. That's about 8, 9 o'clock. That's a good time if something's going to hit my newsfeed for me to look. Or with Facebook, think about it. After work, people might post about their day. Maybe that's a good time to post your event as well. So the different times of day is very important to when you schedule or when you post. And going back to the poll, polls are something that are instantly asking people to participate. And a lot of times people will do it just because they want to see what grows. Yes, no, maybe so. And just remember, it takes one post to go viral, and a really good post with all of these different things and something that maybe you're getting that influencer. I mean, think about it. If you're doing something on Star Wars and Mark Hamill retweeted it to his millions of followers, you're looking pretty good. Or somebody from Star Trek. If you've got those connections or people on your boards or people that work in the company, know people or are friends with these influencers, talk to them. And make sure that one post you put out is something that's going to really reach people, but also be interesting. I can tell you, I've posted videos on tornadoes. I've posted videos on crazy weather and space phenomena. And with the right post at the right time, that thing will lift off, no pun intended. And I get a lot of different likes and shares and views. So I know we've talked about a lot, but I also want to go over now some of your questions. It looks like we have about 15 minutes left. So I want to hear your questions. I want to know what you're thinking. So if you could raise your hand, and then what I'll do is I can call on you to ask your question about anything that you might want me to go a little bit more in detail, or if there's something you want to run by me. I'm happy to help. I'm here for you. Hey, I know it's tough to ask a question. Okay, George's hand is up. So George, go ahead.
I'm always the active person. Very talkative. Now, first of all, thank you very much for your very nice talk. It was really interesting and helpful. Of course, maybe some of this we came across or we know, but when someone who is specialized on the subject, if you give emphasis, it makes us understand how important it is, because sometimes we don't give attention to them and we think that it's just a habit or something. So it was really, really interesting. And while you were talking, I found your page, I followed, and then I came up with 3 or 4 standardized questions. I pressed one accidentally. I think it was, tell me more about yourself. So you will find it. Anyway, so while you were talking about the media, I raised my hand and Elijah asked me to keep it for the end. So I have a question for that. Many times we do it the right way, as it is also recommended by this association or other associations. And because I've been doing this for 17 years, not only with World Space Week, but with Astronomers Without Borders, NASA, United Nations, UNESCO, other events, etc. But the approach from the media is different on a different month of the year. For example, in Cyprus, when they have nothing to post in, because everybody's on holiday in Cyprus, usually in August, they keep promoting every day the Perseus meteor shower. In October, for example, we have a clash of a lot of international events. International of the Moon Night, World Space Week, some other things from other organizations. And there is a big clash of many events, especially the first 4 days of the World Space Week. But of course, we cannot change it because of the specific days for the specific reasons, as we all know, 4th and 10th of October. But I don't understand why. How can I take their attention at a different time of the year when they already have a lot of things to post and get their attention, though we send them by email to 3 different reporters, and maybe they become aware of the World Space Week, for example. I'm just giving an example now, not for specifically, but if they don't have time, what they do, instead of coming to us with the contacts, the telephone numbers, directly telephone me, for example, or email or something, they just go online, they find an arbitrary article, they copy and they paste.
Mhm.
First of all, for me, this is not professional, but they do it. And
Right.
that happens both on the media, both on television and the newspapers. I don't understand. Wow. Can you tell me from the point of view of the reporter why they do that? Is it lack of time?
Absolutely. I'm happy to answer that question. So for everybody else, the question was, sometimes you reach out to journalists during different times of the year and you just don't get that reaction, or they pretty much feel like you're being blown off. And I can understand where you're coming from with that. So a lot of times when there's breaking news going on, when there's something that's happening, that if it's a world crisis, if it's a community crisis, if it's a big fire, if it's something with the war, I mean, your lead reporters, a lot of times, that's their main thing. And it's not that we want to brush you off. And I wish sometimes knowing this, I would respond and say, hey, we've got a lot of news coming through our newsroom today. Thank you so much for this. I might have to get to it in the next day or so, but I want to let you know I received it. I think journalists should be more, I get it is a time crunch sometimes, but I wish sometimes we would be more transparent and say, hey, I've got a lot of news I'm covering today. I might not be able to get to this later this week. So if you don't hear from me by Thursday, can you please follow up? I'm kind of a different person because I like to make sure that I'm building those communications with the people that are reaching out in the communities to give me events. But I wouldn't take it personally per se. I know it feels that way, but sometimes I've come into work and next thing you know, we've got, a shooting downtown and there's been casualties and there's children involved. And my boss will say, hey, Meredith, I know you normally cover weather, but we need all hands on deck today. Could you go online and do some stuff? And sometimes I won't even get to my email until the end of the day. And then sometimes I'm so exhausted that I may not get to those emails till the next morning. And then I've got 20 more emails that came in with different story ideas. And I've had times where something has totally been in my email and I've wanted to click on it, but I've become so busy, or my attention has been my boss telling me you have to work on this, that I don't get to it. So I would say, don't take it personal and continue to follow up with these journalists. And that's where the whole build the relationship is. When you get to know somebody in your community enough, they're going to be comfortable hearing from you, knowing to hear from you. And maybe it's something to say, hey, if this is a busy week for you, I'll touch base next week. And I get it. Sometimes next week can be busy, but the problem too with a lot of media places is they're short staffed. And you've got one reporter that's got to cover 5 stories of the day versus 1 or 2. And that happens sometimes in smaller markets or for smaller organizations. And so please don't take it personal. Majority of the reporters and journalists, they want to get to your story, but when they have a boss that's over their shoulder saying, hey, I need you to put everything else out of your stories today because you need to focus on this, you're going to listen to your boss. So I hope that made sense. And also, just to make this quicker, because I know we're down to our last 5 to 10 minutes, if you have a question, if you can just put it in the chat instead, that way I can read it and answer and get through a lot more questions. Hopefully, George, that answered your question.
Yes, because they came back to me and they said, don't send it in PDF, send it in Word so we can edit or be just print it and be ready. And the second part of my question is social media, because sometimes I'll give you, yesterday we broke the world record. It was something difficult to happen. It was fundraising, charity with astronomy. We made a very nice podcast, which was directly to the point. And the podcast was with a very famous football player, and this guy is in charge of a very large charity, and it was Ronald McDonald charity was involved. And we posted the podcast, and we got in 3-4 days 220 views only. And then we posted a joke, and we received the first day 17,200 Does it mean anything to the spectator? You have to give it in a way like they receive like a scandal, or if you say sorry for my word, crap. I won't use anything. I like that. Forgive me. Any worse word. So if you do it like job or say crazy, something crazy, everybody's on it, clicking, sharing. But if you go like serious for a serious subject, they don't follow it. Is it general? Is it my mistake? Is it?
To be bluntly honest, and thank you for that, George, because it's unfortunately the world we live in today. That crap is what people like. I hate to say it. I really, really do, because I see some really great posts out there that have very minimal likes, or podcasts that have very minimal shares, unless it's scandalous, unless it's something that's controversial. And I hate it. But unfortunately, our society today, a lot of people would rather take that drama or watch those reality shows to try to, I'm trying to think the best way to say this. It's like they watch those shows because it makes their life feel a lot more normal. And when people see crap, as you like to put it, going on in other people's lives, or headlines that are garbage like that, I'll say garbage instead. That feels better. I don't know why, but majority of people seem to like to click on that stuff. So I'm not saying be raunchy and garbage with your posts, but I think that just goes to show sometimes, you have to be a little, as I like to use, sassy, to get your point across. And if it's something that's a little ridiculous, as long as it's still professional ridiculous, if that makes sense.
I'm just looking for a way to do it. If you have any ideas.
Well, thank you. That's a good question. I'm going to get to a few more. Mile, thank you so much for putting your question in here. By any chance, do you know about storytelling online courses? I don't know any off the top of my head. Most of my experience has been just being in the real world and professional. I know LinkedIn now has some different things you can click on, or questions you can search for, articles that people from across LinkedIn can comment on. But, storytelling is an art, and it's something that with practice you get really good at. But I'm definitely going to look into that. And if I hear of anything that really pops, I will definitely post that or put that on my LinkedIn. So thank you for that question. Timothy, how about organizing media workshop titled Amplifying Climate Action Through Space Media, a World Space Week workshop? This is meant to educate the media more about space so they can have more understanding. I think I like that, actually. Amplifying Climate Action Through Space Media, a World Space Week. I would attend. I think that's awesome. And, for something like that, I think that's where, when I said you want to reach out to as many platforms as possible, you really want to find out the different organizations and even mentorship programs where they're looking for these different ways we can attend to be better journalists. For example, I'm a mentor at the Open Notebook, and a lot of times we have this little Slack chat room where we'll post workshops and things for people to attend. And so LinkedIn is, can be your best friend, and tagging different media groups. Because yes, you're right. Many journalists don't understand much about space. I'll be honest, I was bitten by the space bug late in my career. It wasn't until 2017 that I covered my first space story about a satellite going into space to help weather forecasting. And over the years since then, since 2017, I've learned that there are so many space stories that are not told unless it's a rocket launch that's on TV, or a rocket blew up and that makes big news, or it's something with humans involved and it was delayed. But there's so many more things going on, space education, there's space science, medical breakthroughs in space. I mean, I'm dedicating my life now as somebody who is a journalist and a scientist to take the space component on. But there are organizations like here in the United States, like the American Meteorological Society, where you have a bunch of broadcast meteorologists on TV that do all the science talk, but now we're starting to work space in. So every time I find about stuff with space, or some of my other colleagues that do the same thing, we put that out there. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, of course. Alma.
Yay. Thanks, Meredith. I did say that this was going to be epic, and truly it has been. My question has to do with social media. So not that great with it, looking to be better. And I've heard a lot of the time about, building a community, right? And that's what, drives your engagement and all that. But I don't really understand how you go about building that community. It almost feels like you're giving up too much of yourself sometimes, or, you have to be consistent with a certain sort of messaging. So I just wanted to understand your thoughts about, building community.
That's a great question. And I think that's something everybody can relate to, because you're right. You want to get a lot of followers, you want to get a lot of connections, but then sometimes you just don't want all that press, right? You don't want all those people paying attention. And unfortunately, we live in a social media driven world. Like I mentioned, I'll wake up in the morning and I'll log on to Facebook or to X, or sometimes if I have notifications on my Instagram or my LinkedIn, I head straight there. So it's clear that social media is extremely different to 20 years ago when it was just getting started. And maybe you created a profile about yourself because you wanted to connect with family or friends. I mean, now it's a platform to either use to your advantage or to be a nuisance. And sometimes I like to say, if you're uncomfortable, just being, sharing your work or your platform, say on X, for example, like create a different profile that's just a work profile that you're okay with sharing with other people, and then start to build that up. I actually have 2 pages on Facebook. I have my personal page, which my family and my friends are connected to. But then I have my work page, which I've got like 50,000 followers on, that I've developed over the years. And I post some personal stuff on that one, but not as much as I put on my other one, because I like to separate it. And I know sometimes it's a little more work, but I also like knowing I have a separate profile on Facebook that I can make just related to my work stuff, to my science, to my space stuff. So sometimes it's creating a brand new account that's specific for that. Now, if it's on LinkedIn, LinkedIn's a great tool. Again, that's how we met. And sometimes it's not being afraid if you find somebody that's tagged and you're interested in what they're doing, or if it's somebody in the career field that just won an award for being a powerful woman leader in the space industry, go ahead and click on connect. And I'll tell you, I would say 90% of the people that I reach out to, that I connect with, they might sometimes follow up and say, oh, hi, I'm wondering how I know you. But a lot of times people just add me back. And that's how my connections on LinkedIn has went from hundreds to thousands, because I'm not afraid to reach out to people that I have things in common with. And you can also always hide or not share what you're not comfortable sharing. So if you want something that's a little more bland, you can do that. But I would just recommend reaching out to people to your comfort level. And then also, if you really want to separate something from personal to professional, just create a whole new page that you can just go crazy with. I hope that makes sense. Awesome. Looks like we have a few more questions. Oh, I know some people are leaving. Oh, somebody had posted that there are a couple courses. It's called Future Learn or edX or Coursera. So that's great. If you go in the chat, you can see a couple of things. Thanks, Saeed, for posting those. If you have any last minute questions, I don't know how long, Alma, we have. I know it's about 5 after the top of the hour, or you just want to post a question in the chat.
One on strategy for effective content creation. In the chat, there's a question by Chima.
Ah, I see that one. Thank you. Do you have any strategy to be more efficient at creating content on different social media? For example, for instead audience mindset and way of thinking differentials from Instagram to TikTok to make IT even hard for creators to engage differently? What's the best way to be more effective trying to respect each platform, audience, and algorithms also? I can tell you it is tough, because I will post something on Instagram that I will get so many likes, so many follows, so many shares, and I will paste the same thing on my Facebook page and get like 10. It stinks. I sometimes wish all these different platforms were connected, because I've seen that. I've seen people post the same thing on every single platform, and you get completely different responses. Or you might put something on X that gets like 100 shares, and then you post it on LinkedIn and you get 2. I guess my best advice for that is just to think about the demographics or the platform that you're posting on. For example, a lot of times Instagram isn't as hard facts. Unless you're the James Webb Telescope posting a vision, then everybody wants to like that. But, think about the people that you're reaching out to. If it's Instagram, you could have a little more leeway, having a little bit more fun or doing a silly video or dance, or with TikTok. If it's Facebook, it may be, posting a picture like I showed you earlier, like me with the Rocket Girls, something that's really creative that captures people's attention and stops them when they're scrolling through the feed. For Instagram or for LinkedIn, something that is a hot topic that's trending. And some days I'll go on and look because it'll show you on the top right corner, things that are trending for the day. Or if I see a bunch of people that are posting about the anticipated launch of a rocket program, okay, this is a good day for me to post something about rockets. So sometimes it's waiting for the right minute and seeing what's going on nationally or locally and kind of jumping on that bandwagon. So hopefully that answers your question for you. Alma, did you have anything else to add? Or I know there's probably more questions that might come afterwards. I have my email. I think we can share. I can put my information back up as well. Here, I can share this with you guys, I think.
Okay. Elida, do you want to ask your question and then we can round it off that way?
Yes, so I was wondering what is the best way to approach media professionals after building our media list. So in a way that we respect their time. I imagine we wouldn't ask for a meeting because I think they would be very busy for that. But should we start with introducing ourselves and wait for a response? And when the time comes, maybe we share our news with them, or would you recommend anything else?
That's a great question. And there's no better time than right now. Don't wait until a month or 2 out of World Space Week. Do it now. Do it while it's slow. While the time, people are, kids are now getting out of school and there's this little bit of lull because summer break is starting. I would reach out to your local media or somebody that you know and say, hi, my name is Meredith Garofalo. I work for World Space Week. We've got this really big event in October. And I know it's months away, but I'm wondering if you're the best journalist I need to talk about this with, or if there's somebody else on your team that typically covers this. Because sometimes you might reach out to somebody, but they don't typically cover that beat or that topic. And so a lot of times it's good if you just reach out and say, if you're not the person on this, can you recommend someone? Because people have done that to me all the time. And a couple of my other friends that I know cover more of the tougher or more like government political topics, I'll just forward it to them. So I think it's reaching out now. It's making sure you have the right person. And if not, say, hey, is there somebody else? And maybe it's as a little more like connection on LinkedIn. I mean, I can't tell you how many people reach out to me on LinkedIn, and sometimes it's better than an email because then I feel like I can look at their profile, I can learn a little bit more about them, and I have a little bit more of a personal connection just to a basic email with an email address and a tag.
That is a great tip. Thank you so much.
All right. Doesn't look like we have any more in the chat. So I'm not sure if you guys want to wrap things up. Like I said, if you have a question afterwards, I know we're about 10 minutes past our time. Don't hesitate to reach out. Please add me on social media, LinkedIn, reach out to me about your events. Definitely excited about World Space Week. And I'm also excited to share as many of your events possible with my communities. And also I write for space.com. So if something is a little bit more global, I can put something together. For example, if it's World Space Week in general, and it's like, here's 10 events I know of, I can write stories like that too.
Thank you so much, Meredith. This has been, at least I'll speak for myself, has been really, really enlightening. As promised, loads of notes for me to refer to later. And I'm sure other coordinators would say the same. So thank you so much for giving us your time and pouring out your knowledge so effortlessly. And we hope we do you proud come October with all our events. So thank you so much. Thanks to the coordinators for all joining in and getting your colleagues and friends to join in as well.